Just say dudes and dudettes or guys and gals, stallions and fillies.
Oh my gosh.
While there's still no word on a cure for the virus,
Report suspicious activity and call 911.
I can give you every assurance, Mr. Rodriguez. It's full and it's
If it was anybody, it's above us to pass us like 30 seconds ago. From the UFO.
Hey, welcome back to another episode of your favorite podcast, That Would Be Rad, a podcast that majors in 80s and 90s nostalgia, comic culture, all things paranormal, and minors in retro video games, pre-internet mysteries, and raising our kids to be half as cool as we were back in the 80s. We are your hosts, Woody Brown and...
Tyler Bentz. What's up, dude?
Holy smokes, man. Finally, we have electricity. You know, I just feel terrible, man. Not just, not physically. I mean, I felt bad last week, but dude, we're releasing this episode after Monday. This is late. But I mean, we couldn't record this episode last week because I literally didn't have any electricity from Wednesday night until like Saturday evening. So Halloween night, which made for like cool, like candlelit, spooky stories for the kids. But that got old pretty quick. So, I mean, we just didn't have, it's just, you take so many things for granted, like a hot shower, being able to, you know, charge your phone. I mean, we would have to like drive or just sit in our driveway in our cars, like charging up our phones so that I could like still kind of work. And then on top of that, I was sick last week. So all the things aligned to make it kind of seem like Halloween was going to be pretty detrimental this year, but it ended up being pretty rad, actually. And, you know.
Would it be safe to say it was a perfect storm?
Golly, man, that's the most dad joke of dad jokes that you've ever done on here.
Hey-o.
But yeah, so anyways, I'm excited that we have electricity. We can finally, you know, record a podcast episode. I mean, after last month, I mean, would you say, are you fatigued in terms of just spookiness?
Never.
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 Okay, I like that
I
answer.
could go on forever, and frankly, I'm actually in a little bit of a state of mourning because it's just, you know, there's this big build up, and it, you know, you have like a month, and you know, you look back, and at least for me, I look back and I see, wow, we didn't go to this place, we didn't go to this pumpkin farm, we didn't, like, you know, so I'm already looking forward to it next year, and I'm sure a bunch of our listeners and family out there are equally into it. I will say I am definitely happy as far as all the work that we put in for the podcast. I'm excited to kind of have maybe a little more loosey-goosey, and because
Yeah, man,
you know,
we worked
a
hard.
lot.
I think it came across in all the episodes last month, and it was fun, man. It was a lot of fun. You know, it's funny, man. I don't even think my little brother has heard my spooky story. You know, because we went to colleges in different states by that time. You know, and so he was just like on the other end of the U.S. essentially, and I don't think I've ever told him that story. So it was kind of cool that he got to listen to it in you know, not just sort of theater of the mind, as they say, but put our sort of sound design on it and make it even spookier for him. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah, I thought, especially that last episode, I think we can both be pretty proud of it. And again, special thanks to Michael McMillan from the Bigfoot Collectors Club.
No kidding, man. I mean, totally surprised me. I mean, I didn't expect that knock at the door. You
Yeah,
know?
exactly. And super fan Clay. Shout
Yeah,
out to
man.
Clay for stepping up and giving us some awesome stories. But yeah, I'm you know, it's a little bittersweet. I'm kind of glad that it's over, as far as, you know, these episodes have to be this.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, man, I'm kind of excited about some fresh material, but it's funny. Even though the Halloween season's over, you know, some of the stuff that I've been kind of watching on TV and stuff, has been leaning towards that spooky stuff. I mean, I made my way through the movies that I wanted to see before Halloween, just barely. I mean, like I said on one of the episodes, my tradition of watching The Crow, on Devil's Night, the night before Halloween, I couldn't do it because we didn't have power. So literally the second that we had electricity, I was like, hey, babe, I'm going upstairs. I'm watching The Crow. But some of the stuff that I've been watching has been kind of like that spooky thing, like The Haunting of Bly Manor.
Oh, yeah.
You've been talking about, what is the show that you keep on telling me to watch?
Well, actually, hold on. Let's give a little bit of a preface. So this episode, we're just going to have another Consumption Junction episode, and it's just a little bit of a recap and a little bit of a look into what our lives and what we're consuming, whether books or comics or tabletop games, if you're Woody, or movies. So that's what we're doing. So continue.
Because, like we've always said, and I'm sure anybody listening to this does this with their friends, anytime you kind of are getting into something or whatever, it's such a fun conversation to have with your friends and stuff. So, well, and I mean, I've actually kind of been somewhat fatigued a little bit on TV shows in general, but, of course, I had to watch, again, once the power came on, had to watch the first episode of season 2 of Mandalorian.
Yes.
And it was so good.
Man, we haven't even talked about that, have we?
I know, man. I know.
What'd you think?
Dude, I thought it was amazing. And I don't think we should go too deep because I don't want to spoil it for someone who
I was going to say
hasn't had a
far do
chance
you
to
wanna
watch
go?
it. But one of the things I always get concerned with when there's just a first season that's just incredible. The same, Stranger Things, for example. Anytime there's like that sophomore release, you're kind of like, a little nervous, right? And of course, Stranger Things they do good every time. But I was a little nervous about Mandalorian just because, I don't know, I was just a little nervous. And all I can say for anybody that hasn't seen this first episode, it is just as good as last season. It just has a continuation of just that awesome vibe that is The Mandalorian, and that look into the Star Wars universe is just so awesome. And there's a nice little kind of, there's a couple of cameos in the show this episode that I thought were really cool. So if you haven't watched it already, don't worry. You're not going to be disappointed. It's super rad, and you're going to love it.
Yeah, one thing, and I don't think this is a spoiler in any way, but I thought it was a really cool episode it was just a really clever way of explaining how sort of powerful the Mandalorians, like how their suits or their armor and all that stuff, just how sort of effective and how their suit sort of makes them, it's part of what makes them so dangerous and so sort of legendary.
And how important it is to them as well.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, I know we kind of like got that in the first season, but it really kind of, you really have a better understanding for that in this episode for sure.
Man, I hate that we can't like kind of go into it a little more.
Yeah,
but,
I know.
But yeah,
Save it for
maybe next
another.
episode.
Yeah.
What else, before we get into the big topic, which I know that you're just chomping at the bit to get into.
Like biting my nails over here, just can't wait.
I know you are. And I think it's going to make a lot of listeners happy out there that we discuss it. But first, I also watched The Haunting of Bly Manor.
The whole thing, you finished it?
No, I haven't finished it. I'm
Kind of
pretty
gave up
far
on it, I
in.
think.
Man, I
Don't spoil it for me, dude. Do not spoil
No,
it for me.
I'm not. It gets like really, how do I explain this? Like, so the first one, The Haunting of Hill House, I absolutely loved. I thought
So far, what you're saying is you prefer Haunting of Hill House over this one so far.
Well, yes.
Okay.
I think so. Just because and I kind of, so you haven't seen Haunting of Hill House, and not that I think that you're missing anything, but I think the sort of thematically, I think a couple of the topics that they were pushing on Haunting of Hill House were like just the right amount to be very, very intriguing and very, very like an interesting way of spinning, and also, in a lot of ways, very similar to the way that I view ghosts or spirits or whatever, if you will. And so, but this one, it felt, I don't know, there's sort of like a lot of flip flopping, so you don't always know Or are we in the future? Are we in the past? Are we in?
Yeah, there's kind of a lot of like callbacks.
Yeah,
and
it gets
stuff,
a little, I don't know, a little much. I will say this, though. As much as I love the first few episodes, I started the series, it's called Evil, with the guy that's in
Lost.
Is he in Lost?
Well, I mean, the guy that plays Ben in Lost.
Oh,
he's
see,
one
I
of
never
my
saw.
favorite.
I've never seen Lost. Still, I know.
I think somebody just wrecked a car. Someone else had a heart attack, and I am about to just go ballistic on you.
I know, you've told me for years and
What?
years. There's just so much. I have so little time.
Yeah,
as it is.
I know.
But I should. I really should, because I know that was like one of your number one shows. But but anyway, the show called Evil. It's on Netflix. Man, I am really, really into it. It's just done really, really well. And
Was it like a network show first, or like?
I don't think so. Honestly, I hadn't heard of anybody talking about it. And I just happened to see, I was like, oh, well, the dude from Luke Cage is on it. You know, I like him as an actor. And man, I'm several episodes in, and I think it's pretty amazing.
That's awesome, man. Yeah,
Yeah, it's
I
really
will definitely
good.
check it out. Just like you said, though. I mean, dude, trust me, I totally get it. There is way too much. Like I feel like there's just so much
Yeah.
available that it kind of ruins it. You know, I end up just having like paralysis by analysis, trying to figure out what we're going to watch at night, and then we end up not watching anything, and it just, you know, kind of sucks. So I miss out on a lot of stuff. So I'm kind of playing catch up on a couple of shows right now too, like Succession.
Oh
and
God!
I
Are you?
wanna
So you're still not caught up?
Oh, dude,
on
I've
Succession?
only seen the first episode, and I was like, holy,
Oh, my
dude,
gosh.
so good, man.
Oh, dude, just wait, man.
I know, I can't
That-
wait. Don't
my
say
wife,
anything
Courtney,
else.
and I-
And
Oh,
listeners, Tyler is notorious for like wanting me to start something or see a movie, and then I'm like, no, don't tell me anything about it. And he's like, no, this trust me, just trust me. This isn't a thing. And then he like tells me like, I love going into a movie, a book, you know, a show relatively blind, because I just like to, you know, figure it out on my own, and even somewhat insignificant details. Anyway, so you're very notorious for that. So don't tell me anything about it. I'm just saying I'm getting
I don't
started
think
on
I'm
that.
notorious.
Okay.
I'm like, bro, this is not going to give it away. It's not going to give it away at all. So anyway, so Bruce Willis, he's dead, and
Exactly. Oh man.
I'm also a little under the weather. I feel like I've been sick for the last 3 weeks.
Hey, good
I
news,
don't think
man. I got a COVID test.
I know
I got
it's
the
not
results.
COVID.
I got the results. Negative.
Negative.
Boom. Well, I got to be honest with you. In a way, well, no, that is going to be insensitive. I just kind of, yeah, I just kind of wish it, like, because I did feel crappy, I did feel fatigued. In a way, I was kind of hoping, like, oh man, that actually on a scale of 1 to 10, I was like a 2, and I was
Yeah,
hoping that I
right.
did have it. So that it's just like, see, it's not that bad, but I don't have it. So
I mean, I will say I've had a ton of friends that that
this
have
is
had
not
it.
going in it. So who cares? Come on, we got to
No,
stay
no,
on
no.
task here.
Okay, yeah. Let's.
Can we
let's skip ahead.
please talk about what I've been diving into lately?
Um,
Like hardcore
yes,
diving into.
but I got a quick little shout out to another comic that everybody needs to read. I think it actually came out in 2019, but then again, I could be totally wrong on this. It's from DC Comics, the Black Label. It's called Wonder Woman: Dead Earth, and man, is it good!
Dude, I'm pretty sure you've talked about that before.
Oh, it's amazing. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's really, I mean, kudos to DC for letting a creator, Daniel Warren Johnson, he wrote it, he draws it. It's beautiful. He's an incredible artist, but it turns out he's also an equally incredible storyteller and writer.
wow.
So
That's awesome, man.
really good.
And is
sort
it
of
like, are you talking about it's in sync? I mean, I'm sure, of course, I can go out and grab the individual issues.
Oh, yeah.
But is it in a trade yet?
Well, what's cool about it is it's so DC has this. I guess it's kind of new. The last couple of years, they have like what's called the Black Label. You know, it's kind of like a different format. So it's almost like, I'm trying to think what size the actual book was. It's yeah, I think it's 4 issues of almost like Heavy Metal magazine. You remember Heavy Metal? Mm-hmm. It's kind of that size, but it's like you know.
So they're like
40-something.
jumbo issue kind of.
Kind of jumbos, yeah. And there's only 4 of them, so they're easy to pick up. I'm actually curious to see if they do put out
Collection.
collected addiction.
Collected addiction.
because it'll be massive. I mean, it'll be
That'd be
awesome.
cool.
Yeah, but he's a great artist and an amazing storyteller, and
I know.
yeah,
man.
I mean
You've been telling me to read that for a while. I need to get my hands on that. We'll trade.
Yeah.
We'll trade with
Yeah.
what I've been reading. But you have okay. So here's what I've been reading. I didn't know we were going to dive into comics. You're just making me wait even longer to go into what I've been really getting into lately. But okay, that's fine. I just finished volume 3 of the Doom Patrol Young Animal.
Oh, yeah.
That Gerard Way wrote. And man, it was good. But I got to say, I feel like we've talked about this before too, but I'm just like a huge Doom Patrol fan now because of this. And it is super abstract. So anybody listening,
Oh, yeah.
trust me. I don't know. I think volume 1 is relatively easy to digest, but it just gets more and more abstract. And especially like this one, there were moments when I was reading it that I was like, man, I don't know what on earth is going on right now.
Yeah.
But then it kind of comes back around. The writing is, frankly, it's just brilliant. I mean, it's just
That's cool.
amazing. And then the artwork, man, like this, man. I talk about this with you all the time. Like, it's what introduced me to Nick Darrington and him. Well, the combo of him and the colorist Tamara Bonvillain.
Oh, yeah, she's
Dude,
amazing.
It is like literally every single page is like I
Yeah.
just want to frame it. It's just it's just amazing stuff.
Yeah, Nick's an amazing artist, and he's like a sweetheart of a guy. He actually hung out a little bit with him at New York Comic Con a few years back. Yeah, he's just one of those dudes who he immediately knew exactly who I was. Was like, oh, you're the guy with all the like the little tick marks. Like he immediately knew my art.
That's awesome.
And I was like, yeah, we're only here for today or whatever. I was hoping to get on your list. And he was like, well, hold on just a second. And he literally just reaches over, pulls out a sheet of paper, and just busts out like a fast little commission and is like, here you go, dude.
Jeez, man.
Yeah, he's amazing. Really, really, really good dude and fantastic artist.
Yeah, man. I mean, I think the only reason I think you, me, and our friend Johnny were just comic hunting one day, and I just picked up volume 1, and I was like, hey, man, is this any good? And I just started flipping through it, and as you were like answering, yeah, but it's kind of abstract, I didn't care, man. Like literally the art is just, the best way I can describe it is just like juicy, man. I don't know. I don't, that's not like some kind of official comic term, but it is just incredible. So anyways, I of course I've had volume 1 and volume 2, and they just released volume 3 maybe a month or 2 ago, and I got it. And I got to say, at first I was initially disappointed because it wasn't all Nick Darrington art, but
Yeah.
the kind of consequence of it really was that it introduced me to new artists, of course, that I didn't really know, that I'm sure you do. But the two that really kind of jumped out at me were kind of the first one that kind of popped out to me because his style kind of reminds me of yours, is Nick Pitara. I think I'm saying that right. I don't know, but like just like the little like just the detail that he puts into each panel and stuff is just really, really cool. And it kind of reminded me of you, but I thought his stuff was really cool, the issue that he did. And then, man, another one that kind of just like jumped out at me, which was really cool, was Becky Cloonan. And what's cool about her issue was it was the only standalone guest issue in this series that Gerard Way allowed. And so like her and a guy named Michael Conrad kind of co-wrote the story, and she drew it. And dude, I think it was one of my favorite issues in that, Weight of the World sort of series or whatever. It was just a really cool story. It was one of those kind of stories that just makes everybody reading it love comics, and the love for comics and stuff just from within that story is super evident. It's just really, really cool. And if I was a kid, like imagining what happened in that issue is just so freaking killer, man. So she's awesome, and I'm so glad that she was in there. And then she is. Well, go ahead. Sorry. No, go ahead.
No, I'm just gonna quick little tidbit about Becky Cloonan is she's also another really awesome person. And years and years and years ago, so pretty much my all-time favorite comic artist. Well, it falls into two. It's Paul Pope and Raphael Grandpa, the two greatest modern artists of all time, and they're a constant source of inspiration. So Grandpa, years ago, him, Becky Cloonan, Gabriel Ba, Fabio Moon, they put out a book from Floating World Comics, which is a comic shop, I think in Portland, I'm not sure though. But they put out a book called Number 5. It's this tiny little book, and it is impossible to find. I'm pretty sure there's only like 100 copies of it. And I've never seen another copy other than my own. And for years, I, was going back and forth with Becky on like, hey, do you know anywhere that I can find this book? And she was always so fast to respond and so sweet about it. And actually, she said, you know what? I think I have an extra issue, an extra copy in storage. Let me get back to you in a week. Yeah,
No way,
this was
dude.
years ago. Yeah, and she hit me back up. This was on Facebook. This was before even we were on Instagram.
Wow.
And she was like, hey, I found a copy. Shoot me your address. So she shot me the address, and it was, she signed it and everything, and amazing. And
That's amazing, dude.
yeah. And since then, I've gotten it signed by every other artist. But she's amazing. She's another real sweetheart. So
Yeah.
it shows that there are some really great people out there.
Yeah,
in the
man,
comic.
there really are, man. The comic world is
industry.
just so cool, and the art, man, golly, it's just so good. It's just so awesome, man. And like I said, I mean, she like her writing was awesome too, you know. So it was cool. And then like, oh man, it's so funny. This kind of ties into what I've been sort of getting into. There's an issue in volume 2. I think it's like number 12 of that run of Doom Patrol, and it's called "To Tame a Land into the Damonscape," and
Nice.
the whole thing, the way it's written and drawn and everything, is like this one giant sort of role-playing adventure sort of thing, and that's the kind of the theme, because there's like a character in this that he's a kid that's super into that stuff, and so he kind of like takes his parents into this realm, and together they like fight all these bad guys and stuff. It's really, really cool.
That's awesome.
So I think before we get into what I've been really digging into, why don't we take a quick break, a sweet word from our sponsor, and then when we get back, we'll dive right in.
Let's do it.
You will know it is time to turn the page when you hear R2-D2 beep like this.
You have one new message.
Hey, this is John Bachman from Boston, and when I'm not busy being an insurance nerd or fighting my son to play video games, I'm listening to That Would Be Rad, my favorite new podcast.
Let's begin now.
So before we get back into the
You
big
son
topic,
of a gun.
and I'm partially doing this just because I know that Woody is just ready to just fire off what he's into, and I understand why. But I've recently, over at Inky Knuckles, my art rep, Cam, he had an idea for a few of the artists to do this like little Halloween sort of thing. So we did these like little 6x9 little pieces, like inked pieces, for it was like $150 a piece for Halloween. And so mine was characters from the Mignola-verse, Mike Mignola. If you don't know, he's the writer of Hellboy, BPRD, this massive world on Dark Horse Comics. And so I have been in a huge sort of Hellboy kick, just getting into like the reference and all. I think I have almost all the issues. I don't have any of the omnibuses, but or omnibi. Is that right?
I don't know, man.
But they and you've actually never really got into Hellboy,
No,
have you?
no, you're gonna have to let
Oh
me
my
borrow those too. We're gonna
gosh.
have to do a trade.
Yeah, we have to. Hellboy is so great, and I never really understood. I mean, I never really put the two and two together on like why I loved it so much. But there are single issues, but if you're a fan, you're gonna buy them as like the little trades. But they're amazing. They're just these kind of like one-off anthology stories, and every little story is kind of Mike Mignola he'll give like a little preface at the beginning of the story on like what sort of legend he's kind of or sort of like folklore he's sort of playing off of, and it's so fascinating. I mean, like the Baba Yaga and the a lot of bizarre sort of, he'll jump from ancient Japanese like yokai to Polish to Greek. I mean, he like jumps all over the place and uses all this sort of like folklore and like etymology and like
Man.
it's fascinating.
That is
And
cool.
honestly, I really think you would dig it, dude. Because
Yeah, I mean, like, look, I've always thought the character was cool. I thought the movies were pretty rad. I didn't see the newest one, just because I heard not very many. I haven't spoken to anyone that
Not
really
good.
enjoyed it. Unfortunately, I still want to watch it though.
it sucks too because I was so excited because I love that dude. What's his
yeah,
name?
Hopper. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know his real name. He's
awesome,
He's like
man.
he's one of the best parts of Stranger Things. So I had such high hopes, and there were a few things that they did right with it, but I don't know. I just felt like the overall tone was just missing something. I think the Ron Perlman stuff is a little better. Okay, anyway, been in a big Hellboy kick. Found a book that I thought I had, but I guess I'd never come across, called Darkness Calls, with Mike Mignola on writing and Duncan Fegredo on the art, and it is stunning. So,
Wow. Yeah, dude, I'm gonna have to check it out.
so let's do it. What are you?
Yeah.
What are you into, bro?
Okay, so a couple weeks ago, and I think I may have posted this on our like Instagram stories. Which, by the way, if you're not already following us on Instagram, you can find us at That Would Be Rad. It's where we post all kinds of stuff from behind the scenes stuff from episodes to also just stuff that we're into or whatever. I think I posted this, but a couple weeks ago, mainly just because it was Stranger Things edition, I bought the Dungeons and Dragons Stranger Things starter set.
Yeah.
And immediately just kind of like reading through the rules and all this kind of stuff, I just immediately became super fascinated and wanted to just like obsessed truly about just Dungeons and Dragons in general. So
And
here's the
so
thing.
you've never got into it, right?
No. And
Which is
it's just
crazy
weird.
to me.
It's crazy to me too, man. And I think like thinking about like reasons why I kind of talked to my brother about it this weekend. Like I remember I had friends that were into it, but for some reason, like when I would try to like ask them about it, or it just seemed so complex that I was like, I don't know. When my interest sort of peaked, I guess, about that kind of stuff, it was around the same time that there was like Magic the Gathering. And, what was the one with like vampires?
Oh gosh, what was that?
Oh yeah, Vampire the Masquerade. Anyway, those sort of like role playing card games and stuff. That's what I sort of ended up getting into because there was less sort of thinking about it. I didn't have to figure it all out. And Dungeons and Dragons always just seems so. Really just like complex,
Daunting.
really. Yeah, just like I didn't know. It just seemed like too much. It was overwhelming and intimidating. Well,
and especially like me as a kid who, as an adult, I hate math, but I really hated math as a kid.
yeah, and there's a bunch of that like percentage stuff and
Oh God, there's so much sort of that involved.
but what's
Which
cool-
go ahead. Sorry.
Well, I was gonna say,
hey,
like, I
hey,
mean-
pal, you go ahead.
What's cool is like, so starting to kind of think about it in terms of, look, I love that my kids love video games and stuff, especially like the old school ones. But at the same time, like I want to make sure that we, nourish their imagination and make them sort of look outside the world that's right in front of them, which is just screen. That, and I just think it would be really cool to get into this thing. So I started like learning about what, like, I started reading the description of what a dungeon master does. And I'm like, holy crap, this sounds like I was literally born to do this. Like, everything about being a dungeon master just speaks to me like crazy. Storytelling, the detail behind it,
Telling people what to do.
No, controlling a bunch of people. No.
Right.
No, like taking friends on these like adventures and stuff. Just really was like, holy smokes. So then I bought I watched a bunch of YouTube videos, and I got a shout out to like 2 YouTube channels that really kind of helped me realize that it doesn't need to be intimidating. Yes, there are like a lot of things about the rules and stuff, but you can make it as simplistic as you want or as complex as you want, and there's no right or wrong doing it. And those 2 dudes are a guy named Nate from, I don't know, it was D20. I guess it's WASD20. And then a guy named Mark Hulmes. He's just,
Hulmes.
yeah. But his YouTube channel is Sherlock Hulmes, and that's Hulmes. But they have videos about like getting started, what you need. And so, because I knew that there was a Dungeons and Dragons starter set and then an essentials kit. And so I wondered, well, what's the difference between those two? Because the Stranger Things set is really cool. I mean, truthfully, it comes with like 2 Demogorgon minis, and I was like, I gotta have that. It has an adventure in there that's very sort of like one-off, you know, it's designed, it comes with pre-filled character sheets. It's designed literally to jump right in for a beginner. So that's really cool. But I wanted to learn more about the bigger universe and the more of the rules and how to create a character. And so I did some research, watched these videos, and essentially the starter set versus the essentials kit. The essentials kit just kind of comes with more on how to build a character. It comes with like a DM screen, all these like cool things. So I just went for it. And truthfully, man, no joke, because of a coupon and because it's on sale, I bought that sucker for like $11 at Target.
Whoa, cool.
Yeah, I mean, look, I don't
Target,
make
too,
at
that's
Target,
crazy.
man. I don't make any money from Target.
So head on down to Target.
Head on down to Target. Tell them Woody sent you.
So would you say the essentials is, for somebody who knows nothing about it, just wanting to get in, would you say the essentials is better or the starter?
Yeah, so the essentials is better for both of them are cool. But I would say the essential kit it depends. It depends on, like, if I didn't already have the Stranger Things starter set, I may have gone to the other starter set. But essentially, this is what I found out. The starter set comes with another sort of one-off adventure. There's not a whole lot of like extra stuff you can do with that adventure. I don't believe you get like a map. You don't get a DM screen. You get some dice and stuff, and then like a very basic rule book. And it doesn't. I think it also comes with pre-filled characters. I don't think it tells you anything about character creation really. Although you can get the basic rules from Dungeons and Dragons website that you can print, and it gives you some of the character creation stuff. Limited races, limited classes.
It's weird that they don't really go into like character creation
on the starter set. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean that's such a
I think
big
they design it that way. I think again to make it, because I think it is a big part of it, but I think it's a part of it that intimidates a lot of people because there's kind of a lot to it, and so they kind of the starter set is like, imagine if you and some friends are like, hey man, we want to play Dungeons and Dragons this weekend. We've never played before. What do we do? I would say get the starter set.
Cool.
Essentials kit, although also geared for people that have never played it before, its adventure that's included is much more expansive. There's a ton more sort of just random things that you can do. There's quests. There is, of course, the DM screen, which is really cool because it has really cool like fantasy art on the front that the players get to see, but on the backside that's facing the dungeon master has all these like tips and things about certain spells and attacks and that kind of stuff, that way you don't have to keep on flipping through the adventure or the rule book or anything like that. And then a bunch of like spell cards, just a ton of stuff, man. And they're about the same price too, which is kind of crazy. So I mean, cool. It's just one of those things, like, because of YouTube and because there's just a lot of information out there, you could really get a pretty good idea about how to get started and all that, just watching a couple of videos on YouTube and getting the essentials kit and then just getting going.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. I played as a kid in middle school, and I was obsessed with it. And eventually went on to, like you were saying with Magic: The Gathering, eventually went on to do, to move on to Magic, just because it was, I mean, I can remember being in middle school and carrying around like this huge binder of characters and like all your, stuff. And so, but one thing I do remember as a kid especially is, again, as a kid who hated math, the original one, not advanced Dungeons and Dragons, but just regular Dungeons and Dragons was, there was just so much of like the percentage stuff, the roll, like, rolling the die. And it was a little daunting especially for a kid who just wanted to partake in sort of the imagination and the fantasy part. I really didn't care about like the actual the die and your percentages and all that stuff. And so we actually, oddly enough, we sort of made a couple friends and I made like a sort of a watered down version that I think we had one die and that was it. We cut off a lot of the characteristics, and it was very sort of like a simplified version. But the funny thing is in the late 70s when TSR, that's the company that put out D&D, came out, there was a thing called the Satanic Panic, and it was huge. And all these parents started looking directly at like, oh, well, it's these kids playing Dungeons and Dragons and committing suicide or, overdosing and stuff. And oddly enough, it's really bizarre that they sort of looked at this tabletop nerd, role-playing game. But oddly enough, there was a made-for-TV movie with, I think it was Tom Hanks' first movie called Mazes and Monsters. Yeah, dude. And so that's, funnily enough, because there was this stigma of, if our teachers saw us playing Dungeons and Dragons, they immediately were like, oh, this is satanic. So we called it Mazes and Monsters, which I think the movie was literally made to dissuade kids from getting into it and, going down the dark path.
Yeah, man. I mean, I think one thing that I really am excited about, and I think that these guys on those YouTube channels really kind of explained perfectly, was that, look, it can be as simple as you want to make it. And especially if you're the dungeon master, you can literally, you're in charge, man. And the most important thing whenever running a campaign or even just like a small, short, quick adventure is to make sure that everyone playing is having fun. So if that means, you don't want to just throw a bunch of creatures at them and then just like, they're just, you want them to have fun and be excited and just participate. And so like you and I have kind of talked about this, like I want to get, our kids involved in it. And I mean, I think, especially our youngest are definitely, I don't think they could sit around for, they can't like understand the whole concept, but my oldest and your oldest, I think could. And, I think too, it would be fun for like a game night with our wives. I mean, I thought about this. We had kind of talked about, well, maybe we can like get them excited about being like an elf or something like that. And we're like, they probably won't. Dude, what about this? What about them being like themselves, right? So they're human, but they get to pick like what, maybe they're human like clerics or wizards
Paladins
or something. Like they get like these magic powers that they choose and roll through to see what their characteristics are. And then they just join our characters in the adventure that we do together on like a game night.
Yeah. I love it. I think my wife is very, my wife, Courtney, she's very pragmatic and, realistic and very sort of fact-based. So it's always a little hard to kind of get her to bite on that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
but
mine too.
I think if we can get them both into it, I think that's the key.
Yeah, man. And I think if we make it like tailored to their, like, I don't know. I think we can make it fun, man. Yeah, we got to give it a try. And if it sucks, then we give it a try. So that's what I've been super into, man. Just getting one of these things going. And there's just so much to kind of learn about. And there's so much, like you were talking about earlier, like some of the older books that you have. I think this 5th edition that's come out relatively recent, the most recent edition of it, kind of is really focused on helping new people get into it, but then also, making it so that the people that have played it for a long time. Yeah. And I think if you dive in online, there's, certain factions of people that just maybe don't care. They want the original, traditional, the hardcore, whatever. They all have their own favorite editions, but pretty much everything that I see online, everybody loves what they call 5e. And they're happy about it. They like that some of the stuff was taken out from, just overly complicated stuff was just kind of like edited out so that you can really get the best sort of bang for your buck and all that. And so, it is a little daunting too. There's so many books and so many adventures that you can kind of get into, like I already want awesome, like the core books, the player's handbook, the Dungeon Master's Guide, and the Monsters Manual. If I don't get them before Christmas, they're definitely going to be on my list.
Yeah, you made me dig out of my basement. I have more. I think they're at my sister's lives in the house that we grew up in now. But yeah, I'd found I have Fiend Folio, Deities and Demigods. I think the original AD&D Player's Handbook, and then some other sort of like I have like the Ninja Turtles, sort of RPG, which was such a cool thing. I mean, Marvel, like all the Marvel characters, there was one spinoff of that. There was
There's some Star Wars stuff out there.
yeah. Then you have like Shadowrun and Forgotten Realms and Warhammer, which I think Warhammer's. I never got into.
I just talked to my my buddy Rollins, and he was talking about how he never got into D&D, but he got into Warhammer, and so Warhammer is like it's
God, it
literally
looks
just
so cool.
It's just battles. So you just
Oh, wow.
build your armies, and you just fight against other armies, and that's that's really it. So that's cool. It sounds cool, but I don't know. For me, I'd rather dive into D&D. And
Yeah.
even
it's
he was
classic.
talking about like, dude, there's just so many ways that you can play with people, even like, and don't get me wrong, I really legit want to turn my basement into at least have an area where we can just have a just killer campaign going.
Oh yeah,
A big long table and everything.
big
But-
long table for just me and you.
No, like whoever else we bring in, especially once all this virus crap. But like there's ways now, thanks to technology, when you have electricity and the internet, that you can get online and almost like a Zoom. Of course, you can use like Zoom or a platform like that. But
Which
any
I
sort
want
of-
us to do this
yeah.
week.
Oh yeah, for sure, dude. I mean, we're gonna
Because
do a character creation session. I mean, 100%.
Yeah, yeah. I mean,
at least.
should we do? So this was a thing that, like I said, back when I was a kid, we made up sort of a simplified game. I never remember being able to play with just two people back in the day. So we had kind of, especially my cousin Colt, we would we kind of created like a much more simplified version. So it was like I was just the DM, and then he was a character. But now you're saying it's kind of a common thing. So I'm excited to do like a Zoom call and maybe get back into it.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, I don't know like how super common, but for sure this Essentials kit is designed in a way that for a minimum, like 2 to 6 players, which is different than a lot of the other ones. Like even the Stranger Things one, it's like, 3 to 5 players or whatever. So the way that this Essentials kit, what I love about it, man, that is just going to help us sort of just like catapult into just running an adventure just right away, is that it's truly designed for like you can play it as DM and a player, and they even have like little sidekick characters that also have abilities, and you get to roll that you can get assigned if you're just playing with one player, or later on in the adventure you may or may not run into these characters if you have other players on this adventure with you. So it's really, really cool, man. And there's like platforms like I think it's called Roll D20. It's an online platform. I haven't really dove too far into it. Like, I don't know if it costs money, but I've just seen some YouTube videos of streams where people use that platform to play a game remotely with like, 5 other people. So I think, it's very, very possible that in the future, we run a campaign with, either some listeners or, our
that
friends
would
from
be
around the world. So it'd be pretty cool. So yeah, man, I mean, that's what I've been doing during the power outage, just by flashlight, just reading about Dungeons and Dragons, man, which,
I mean, that's pretty. That kind of sounds like paradise. That
yeah,
sounds
it was awesome, man. It was really
Yeah.
cool. And getting my
Yeah.
son into it, making him sort of read about some of the character, the races, and like all the classes and spells and stuff. He's like, oh man, there's a spell in this one. I think it's called like Fireball Necklace or something. And it's just like literally a necklace of fireballs that you can kind of like grab a fireball and throw it, if you need to.
cool.
It's so cool, man.
Yeah, that's awesome. Hey, do you have? I know we were talking about it yesterday, but so your son Woodrow wrote his first story. Mm-hmm. Do you have any of that stuff?
With me?
Yeah. Do you want to share it?
I mean, what do you want me to read the whole thing?
I mean, is it like I thought? I thought.
Well,
it was
it's like
short.
2. It's like 2 pages, but We can
Maybe
just
not
put,
then.
yeah, we can just put it on the thing. So he, he's really into the Goosebumps books. We got him, like I found on eBay last month, I found like, I don't know, like 11 or 12 of the kind of first printings of some of them. And, not in order. They're just kind of random that somebody had. I don't know. We bought them on eBay. And so we started reading them. And he's super into it. And so he wants to kind of create his own series. And so he wrote this one, I guess, as they had a class assignment. They had to write a spooky story, but they didn't have school Thursday and Friday of last week because of the storm. And, and anyway, like he had this assignment and he's like, man, I kind of want to write what will become like maybe the first in this book series of mine. Of course, this is only 2 pages, but I was like, yeah, cool. And he's like, I don't think any other kids are gonna like draw a cover, but and so he started drawing this cover, and I was like amazed. So I kind of told him, how about this? You draw it, and then I'll color it in just to kind of just add a little spice to it. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And so, we can post that on the Instagram. I think it looks pretty cool, man. It's dude, I love it. His series is called Brain Freeze, and the name of this story is called The Haunted Graveyard, and it's cool, man. Like he and his friends, it actually facilitated a pretty cool conversation about Dungeons and Dragons, because I kind of told him, like, what's cool is we can create these adventures. And you and your sister can I'll lay out the story, and then you guys can battle what you battle or explore, and we'll roll the dice to see what happens. And so that's kind of how he approached this story that he wrote, because he was like, well, I mean, I don't really know, like, what characters I said, just use people to start with, So he and like 2 of his best friends from school, and it's really cool, man. It's a really cool little story. It was awesome.
Man. I love that. Yeah, that's so cool.
Yeah, it's neat to see their imaginations kind of, run wild. And so, like, as he's like thinking about the story, certain parts he'd be like, well, I just don't know what happens next. And I'd say, well, just, put yourself like in your mind, just put yourself there and kind of like visualize what's going on. And so, like, to see him kind of like stare off in the distance and be like, oh yeah, and like start writing it was really neat, man.
I just picture you like recently getting into D&D so much that he's like, Dad, what should we do next? And you're like, well, I mean, they're walking in the graveyard, and then maybe they just sit down to rest and start rolling the die and playing a role-playing game.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, hey, Dad, am I allowed to play video games, or do I have to go to bed? I'm like, 1 second, son. I pull out my 20-sided die. I'm like,
that's actually probably not a bad idea.
Yeah, no, completely leave it up to chance. But yeah, man, I mean, I think... God, I don't know. That's what I've been into lately. I mean, I'm still reading Passport to Magonia and Real Monsters, Gruesome Critters, and Beasts from the Dark Side by Brad Steiger.
Yeah.
I'm reading that puppy.
Yeah. I think we're both so busy, with just life, and then the whole power outage deal for you, and then Halloween, and I'm kind of excited for a little... not break. I mean, because we love what we do. We love the show. Yeah. And honestly, it feels kind of like a break to make the show.
Yeah.
At least to record the show rather. Mm-hmm. But I am looking forward to kind of, getting back into consuming a little more, having a little more time for books and comics and movies and stuff.
Yeah, and doing some research that's like on theme with future episodes and stuff. I'm kind of excited about that too.
Yeah, and one thing I was thinking about too a couple days ago is maybe we do a type of poll where you guys tell us what you want to hear. Do you want to hear less paranormal stuff and more about, 80s movies? Or if you guys have anything that you would like us to take a swing at and cover,
maybe like we do one show a month that is like listener
that's
choice,
great.
Yeah,
like that's awesome.
So I mean, I think no matter what, we're gonna continue to talk about paranormal stuff, like everything that we want to talk about, just because at the end of the day we're just dorks that like a lot of stuff. But I think it would be kind of cool to have like one show a month that maybe someone says, hey, you know, look into this creature, or hey, you know, whatever. And then we kind of go through some of those requests and then just kind of dive in and do a show about that.
Yeah. Although we're not going to go into religion, politics.
No religion, no politics, none of that for sure.
We're never, ever going to talk about COVID.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
those kind of things we're not going to get into. But,
Yeah.
you know, I also wanted to point our listeners who maybe didn't catch it on the Instagram account or page or whatever you want to call it, that we are, for a couple of days, we'll leave it up for a couple of days. We've got some hand-drawn Halloween masks that Tyler created that are just amazing. It's actually what I was for Halloween. I used the Frankenstein mask and
Right on.
printed it out, cut it out, glued it onto some cardboard, and wore it as my Halloween costume. But truly, man, I also printed out a couple extras just to frame. They're just really cool works of art with the That Would Be Rad stuff. It looks just like one of those old Ben Cooper masks.
Oh, yeah.
So there's like a
That's
Frankenstein.
totally
and-
the vibe.
Yeah, man. Frankenstein and a Dark Knight mask. So all you have to do to get the link to the high resolution PDF is go to our Instagram page, click the link in our bio, and it'll say like free Halloween present or whatever. You click that, you sign up, then we'll send you that link, because we'll be taking that link down, and this is the only place that they're available. There's going to be different ones, something different available next year, but we'll leave that link active for other ways and things that you can sign up for, because shortly we're going to be coming up with what we call the That Would Be Rad Dispatch, and it's going to be an exclusive. We called it dispatch because I just hate the word newsletter. It sounds like, something.
Or mailing list. I hate that.
Yeah,
too.
What we want to do is we want to kind of.
But basically, it's a newsletter or mailing list.
Exactly. But more like in the vein of, the old sort of punk rock magazines that you'd get, the indie underground stuff.
Like zine culture.
Yeah, man. And kind of talk about, in some ways, sometimes some of these things that we talk about on the show in a little bit of greater depth, and just kind of provide some sort of updates about exclusive things that we're going to be offering in the near future, such as merchandise and other things. So that's only going to be, especially for the people that are a part of the dispatch, we're going to do, something special in terms of they'll only have access to that, whether it's a coupon code for merchandise, or maybe it's just like they have access to a t-shirt design that no one else does for the time being, or limited edition things like that. So anyway, if you want to be a part of that, if you want to join the club, then am I allowed to say club since Bigfoot? Oh. Anyway, if you want to
join the dispatch,
if you want to if you want access to the dispatch, you gotta sign up. So to do that, you just go to our Instagram page at That Would Be Rad, and the link is right there. So
cool.
That's about it, man. I think that I think we've said it all.
I think so too.
Yeah.
Also, if you don't like Dungeons and Dragons,
Sorry.
I mean, every episode from here on out is probably going to be.
Yeah, D&D heavy. So
Oh, yeah.
Thank you, everybody, for listening. Thank you. I hope you had a happy Halloween. I hope that you liked our October Spooktacular. I can't wait for next year's. Next year's going to be even bigger, even better.
Well, yeah. Thanks for listening. Thanks for all the interaction on our social media. And as always,
Be rad.
That's the way it goes. You're my favorite song on the radio. time where I just needed some sunshine. You were already dead before you became a ghost. You are